Welcome back to Pokemon Episode Summaries. Today, we're doing episode 447, Second Time's the Charm. The episode begins with Ash and the gang at the Pokemon Center, the day after Ash's defeat against Annabelle last episode. Nurse Joy was just giving all of Ash's Pokemon back to him after Ash had gave them to her for some healing, and Ash thanks her for this, and states how happy he was that his Pokemon were back in order. Scott then comes up to Ash and the gang and tells Ash that, despite his loss, his battle was pretty fucking good against Annabelle, at least from what he saw, although Ash stated that he still wanted a rematch. Scott warned Ash that Annabelle was powerful though, and he may not be able to beat her, but Ash told him that he had a new plan now. He was gonna correct his mistake last time of only using brute strength and power, which Scott admitted seemed like a pretty good fucking strategy. And Ash tells Pikachu to get ready for training, making Pikachu excited. Later, Ash and the gang, minus Scott, go to the same river that Ash was running at the beginning of last episode. And while they were walking to the perfect spot for Ash's training, Max asked Ash which Pokemon he planned to use, implying that he would probably use a different Pokemon, since Pikachu, Corphish, and Tauros lost against Annabelle, but Ash stated that he was going to use the same Pokemon, since he didn't utilize them to their full potential. Once Ash and the gang reach a certain spot by the river, Ash declares it was time to begin, and sends out Corphish and Tauros, doing a run with Pikachu, Corphish, and Tauros, which May was skeptical of, not understanding the purpose. Ash, Pikachu, Corphish, and Tauros ran all the way to a tree where Ash pivoted to practicing his Pokemon's attacks. Pikachu used Iron Tail, Corphish used Crab Hammer, and Tauros used Takedown, all on the same tree, and at the same exact time to boot. The attacks were powerful, so Ash was happy as he himself continued to run in place, but Ash, Corphish, Pikachu, and Tauros freaked the fuck out in fear, and Ash realized that he had forgotten something. He forgot that there was a swarm of Beedrill and their Weedle children in some of the bushes by this tree, and because of this, the Beedrill were disturbed by the attacks. So the Beedrill come out of the bushes and chase after Ash, Pikachu, Corphish, and Tauros, trying to attack them, while the rest of the gang manages to evade being chased. Eventually, as Ash and his three Pokemon he had out continued to run, Annabelle could be seen in the distance, and Ash spotted her, and immediately got excited, despite still being chased, since he thought Annabelle would be able to communicate with the Beedrill and basically convince them to stop chasing him and his Pokemon. So he asked Annabelle if she could do this, but Annabelle claimed she was unable to calm them down, since they were so angry, and they were in a swarm, and basically, when they were in a swarm, it would be other members of their swarm that could influence them more than she could. Ash was confused, as he thought there was only two Beedrill following him, the ones from last episode, but no, there was actually a whole swarm this entire time, and now they were all chasing after Ash, and now Annabelle too, because Annabelle was forced to run with Ash and his Pokemon, since she couldn't calm him down. Eventually, as they were all running, Tauros ended up getting stung from behind by one of the Beedrill's twin needle attack, sending him in a rampage from the pain, and he eventually runs ahead of Ash and Annabelle, and the other Pokemon, colliding into them, and knocking them all, including himself, into the lake. With everyone in the water, the Beedrill was satisfied, so they flew right past Ash and Annabelle, and immediately Ash and Annabelle started to laugh at how crazy the situation was, but they quickly get out of the water now that the Beedrill were gone, although they were all wet and dirty, especially Tauros with all of its fur. So Ash and Annabelle, with the help of Pikachu and Corphish, decided to clean up Tauros. Ash was initially going to ask for a battle, but he figured that cleaning up Tauros first would be a good idea, and Annabelle offered to help, so yeah, they cleaned Tauros with Corphish and Pikachu helping them. Oh yeah, right before Ash and Annabelle had started cleaning, May, Max, and Brock had showed up, but they just decided to stay out of the cleaning, I guess. Maybe they were a little lazy, I don't fucking know. Eventually, while cleaning, Corphish got bored as fuck and decided to dip his hand in the water and splashed Ash a little bit. Once Tauros was dry, with the help of some rags, Ash and Annabelle figured that they should get back at Corphish and jumped in the water, getting themselves wet once again as they splashed Corphish back, and it basically turned into a little fight. Although, Ash did a lot more of the splashing than Annabelle did, because I think Annabelle was far more dignified. While this was going on, we see May, Max, and Brock watching while making some lunch, having set up a little portable table on which Max and May were working on salad and sandwiches, and Brock was working on a stew of some kind. May had also let Munchlax out of its Pokeball, and it was standing by the fire the stew was cooking on. While watching Ash and Annabelle splashing with Corphish, Max commented that it was weird Ash and Annabelle were having such a good time, despite Annabelle just beating Ash. He basically figured Ash would have been a bit salty, though Brock clarifies that trainers that battled hard in the arena were usually very good friends outside of the arena. Meanwhile, as for Team Rocket, including Wobbuffet, they had just dug a tunnel underground and had traversed it, looking for Ash and the gang's location, and sure enough, they found it. So, Meowth started to use Fury Swipes to dig through the tunnel upwards to basically ambush Ash and the gang with the goal of catching Pikachu. Unfortunately for Team Rocket, though, as soon as Meowth dug and dust came out, something could be seen blocking the tunnel. So Jessie poked and prodded it with her shovel, which caused it to fall fully into the tunnel, crushing Team Rocket, along with a whole bunch of dirt. It was Maze and Munchlax, because it had been standing directly above the tunnel exit that Meowth had been digging. Team Rocket was annoyed by this, but when they looked up, they saw that Munchlax, sitting on top of them in a pile of dirt, was eating a sandwich, which must have been one of Ash and the gang's sandwiches. The thought of food made Team Rocket get up immediately, throwing Munchlax and the dirt out of the tunnel as they climbed out of the tunnel too, and immediately spotted a table full of food, and ate a whole bunch of it while doing the motto, while Ash and the gang watched. And they were just trying to eat some of their food, too. Anyways, once Team Rocket's food-oriented motto was done, in which they included a whole bunch of food. And Lime Jr., who popped out of the Pokeball, and all of Team Rocket started to eat meat sticks. They realized that they had been caught eating the food when Ash demanded that they stop going after Pikachu. Although Team Rocket clarified that all they had interest in was lunch, not Pikachu. This time around, they had literally changed their entire plan just because Brock's lunch was so good. Team Rocket went to go steal more food, but they realized that while they were talking with Ash and the gang, Munchlax had taken all of the food and had started to eat every single thing from the table. Team Rocket was furious by this and proceeded to summon a Wobbuffet mech from the ground, with Meowth pressing a button, somehow doing this, and they get inside, and we're about to go chase after Munchlax to get whatever food he had stolen back. Ash and the gang wondered why the fuck the Wobbuffet mech was even created in the first place. Like, and how did it stay underground? So Team Rocket claimed it was inflatable, so Meowth just had to press a button to inflate it, and that's why it wasn't taking up any space underground before this. Anyways, before the mech could go after Munchlax, May sent out her Eevee while spinning and told it to use tackle on the inflatable mech. Team Rocket, thinking that the tackle wouldn't do anything, simply just laughed at Eevee's failed tackle attempts as Eevee just bounced off the inflatable mech. Meowth panics though when he sees that Eevee had actually managed to pop a hole in the inflatable. A very small hole, but this hole was enough to deflate the entire mech, sending Team Rocket blasting off and destroying their mech. As the mech continued to deflate. A bit later, Ash and the gang and Annabelle were talking, with May admitting that she was still very impressed by Annabelle's ability to talk with her Pokemon telepathically. So May decided to try talking with her Combusken telepathically by sending it out. Before she actually tries to communicate telepathically with Combusken, though, she suggests that Ash should try communicating telepathically too, because maybe that would give him an advantage against Annabelle. And Ash agrees, bending down to Corphish and telling Corphish to use Harden, though not actually saying it, only saying it with his mind. And May then followed by asking Combusken to use Peck, only with her mind. Combusken and Corphish only became nervous and frustrated, not unleashing the attacks, as they didn't know why the fuck Ash and May were just staring at them, saying nothing, which made Ash and May realize that they did not have the telepathy abilities whatsoever. Ash asked Annabelle for some pointers, wondering how she was able to communicate with Pokemon telepathically. Although Annabelle claims that she didn't even know herself, she had just been able to use telepathy to talk to Pokemon and plants and trees too, since she was young, because they were technically living organisms. Or more accurately, she was able to just sense what living organisms were feeling, aside from humans. She demonstrated this by sensing a whole bunch of Farfetch'd who had gathered in the water, and also a flower. And Annabelle asked Ash if he was able to tell that this flower was very happy, but Ash couldn't sense anything. And was embarrassed that he couldn't do what Annabelle could, although Brock pointed out that Ash should simply just bond with nature if he wanted to be able to sense the flower. And Annabelle agreed that would probably help, pointing out that Ash should have as strong a bond with nature as he did with his Pokemon. Annabelle told Ash to, instead of focusing on nature, since he wasn't bonded with it yet, to try and focus on finding out what was in Annabelle's heart. So Ash tried his best to sense what was in Annabelle's heart, but he couldn't. Although, once he gives up, Annabelle reassures Ash that it didn't really matter if he could sense Pokemon or not. The important thing was if he had a strong bond with them. And it was evident that he did. Some people just could use telepathy, some couldn't, I guess. How ironic that eventually Ash would be fucking a master at sensing Pokemon, but anyways, that's future music. Ash finally changed the subject a little bit, requesting a rematch with Annabelle, and Annabelle accepted, and went back to the battle tower before Ash to get shit set up. A little while later, Ash and the gang went to the battle tower too, and met up with Scott outside. Scott asked Ash if he was really ready for his rematch with Annabelle, once again reminding him of Annabelle's strength, but Ash confirmed that he was ready. So, Ash and Annabelle met up inside the battle tower, getting on opposite sides of the battlefield, while Marin, the referee, stood in the middle again, and Scott, May, Max, and Brock sat on a bench, observing the battle as Annabelle started things off by sending out her Alakazam, and Ash sent out his Corphish again. Scott, Brock, and Max and May talked about how this matchup was the same first matchup as the last battle, and wondered if the actual match would go down any differently. Marin then officially declared that it was time for the battle to begin, so Ash started off by having Corphish use Crab Hammer, although Annabelle used her telepathy right from the start, telling Alakazam silently to use a Focus Punch. Brock, May, Max, and Scott were amazed that Annabelle was starting out by using telepathic abilities, and wondered which attack would overpower the other, as both the Focus Punch and Crab Hammer collided. Eventually, both attacks dissipated when they hit each other, meaning that no Pokemon was injured from either attack. Ash then told Corphish to use a Bubble Beam, but Alakazam then used a telepathic Psy Beam, causing these attacks to collide, in turn causing a massive explosion, which cancelled out both attacks, so neither Pokemon was attacked once again. Ash refused to give up, and ordered Corphish to use a Vice Grip. While Corphish started to make his way towards Alakazam, though, Alakazam charged up a Psychic and used it to throw Corphish backwards. However, while Corphish was being thrown backwards in midair, it was still able to use a Bubble Beam, which successfully made contact with Alakazam, which made Corphish happy, along with Scott, May, Max, and Brock, who were impressed. Annabelle simply smirked, not fazed by this one attack at all, as she just told Alakazam to use Recover, and this allowed Alakazam to regain some of its health. Frightening Brock, May, Max, Scott, and even Ash, who told Corphish to attack as soon as possible to stop the Recover, but Corphish was too happy with its previous attack to do anything. Eventually, Corphish was able to get off a Crab Hammer, though, which forced Alakazam to quit focusing on recovering its full health, since it had to counter the Crab Hammer with a Focus Punch. Corphish easily dodged the focus punch though, and attacked Alakazam hard with a crab hammer straight into its jaw. Alakazam used Side Beam on Corphish though, confusing him as a result. With Corphish confused, Alakazam goes to use a focus punch on it, but luckily for Ash, Corphish was able to fight through its confusion and use a very strong crab hammer, which really impressed Brock, May, Max, and Scott, because they thought for sure that Corphish's confused state would be the downfall of it. Ash knew that Corphish being confused would probably prevent it from attacking once again though, so he recalled Corphish, which snapped it out of its confusion, and immediately after this, Ash threw Corphish right back out onto the battlefield and had to use a Bubble Beam to knock out Alakazam, sending it flying back, steaming. So Marin officially declared that Corphish was the winner of this battle. Scott, May, Max, and Brock were impressed that Ash was actually able to take out one of Annabelle's Pokemon this time, in a much quicker time period. While Annabelle was impressed as well, as she sent out her second Pokemon, Metagross, who Ash had just barely faced in the last battle. With Annabelle also having recalled Alakazam in the process, obviously, Ash was a bit worried to go up against it, but he did anyways, telling Corphish to use Bubble Beam. But Metagross dodged the attack and sent Corphish flying back with a Meteor Mash attack. And Corphish was knocked back so hard that it was actually knocked out, so Marin officially declared Metagross the winner. So the score was now 1-1. Ash then recalled Corphish, while Brock, May, Max, and Scott wondered what Pokemon Ash would send out next, and they were shocked to find out that Ash had sent out Tauros, despite Tauros not being able to do very good against Metagross, since Metagross was a strong Steel type. Ash reassured his friends, however, that Tauros was a great fighting choice, and confidently told Tauros to go in for a takedown. Tauros was just excited to have an opportunity to battle again, and it proceeded to use takedown, but it didn't do much damage because Metagross used Iron Defense to negate the damage. Ash then has Tauros going for a Horn attack, leaving Annabelle to tell Metagross to use a Meteor Mash. Tauros was able to dodge the Meteor Mash and slam his horn into Metagross's bottom, sending it flying. Metagross then recovers and uses a Hyper Beam though, but Tauros uses a Double Team to create multiple copies of itself, and because of this, the Hyper Beam only hit the copies and not its real self. However, Tauros was eventually hit, because once all its duplicates were gone, it was next. After some encouragement from Ash though, Tauros was able to get back up after getting hit, fully recovering, as it retaliated against Metagross with a Horn attack. Metagross tried to defend itself, but it couldn't, especially using another Hyper Beam, since it still had to recharge from using Hyper Beam earlier. Annabelle then telepathically tells Metagross to use Meteor Mash, and in retaliation, Tauros tries to counter it with a takedown. Both attacks collide, and as a result, both Tauros and Metagross were knocked out at the same time, so Marin officially declared that it was a draw, and both trainers were down to their last Pokemon. So Annabelle sent out her last Pokemon first, Espeon, while Ash sent out his Pikachu. Scott, Brock, May, and Max were very intrigued seeing Annabelle's last Pokemon, with May scanning Espeon with her Pokedex to learn more about it. Max wondered if Ash would really be able to stand up to Espeon, although he had hope, as Pikachu started off the battle by going for a quick attack, while Scott, May, Max, and Brock wished Pikachu luck. Although Espeon was able to dodge Pikachu's quick attack, shocking Ash, since he viewed Pikachu's speed as one of its best attributes, and Espeon then struck back against Pikachu with a quick attack of its own, startling Pikachu, Scott, Brock, May, and Max as Pikachu was knocked into the air. While in the air, Pikachu tried to use an Iron Tail attack on Espeon, but Espeon intercepted, jumping up to Pikachu, countering with its own Iron Tail, essentially cancelling out both Iron Tails. Pikachu falls to the ground, although it gets off a Thunderbolt attack, but in retaliation, Espeon fires off a Zap Cannon that overpowered the Thunderbolt, sending Pikachu flying back as a result, hurting it quite a bit. Scott was impressed by Espeon's strength, but May, Max, and Brock were just worried for Pikachu. Pikachu got up and tried to use another Thunderbolt on Espeon, but this time, Espeon jumped out of the way and used a Psychic to slam Pikachu up into the ceiling, although Pikachu recovered relatively quickly, falling to the ground before charging towards Espeon with another quick attack, but Espeon simply used Psychic again, cancelling out the quick attack as it picked up Pikachu and sent Pikachu back to the ceiling once again, even to the point where Pikachu was now touching the lights of the roof, impressing Scott once again by Espeon's strength. However, even though Pikachu was forcibly pushed into the lights, it was able to actually compose itself and basically regain its footing while on one of the lights. And while on one of the lights, it used a Thunderbolt to completely destroy the Battle Tower's power. It destroyed the light it was on, basically making the entire place dark. Also, the Thunderbolt was fired by Pikachu for a second time in a row, and it actually hit Espeon, so Pikachu did land a hit on Espeon after all, but this made Espeon angry as it retaliated with a Zap Cannon. Scott, Brock, May, and Max really wished they could see the battle better because it was so fucking dark. And Annabelle really wished that she could see the battle well too, because it seemed as though Espeon's Zap Cannons weren't hitting Pikachu whatsoever, though. It was stopping Pikachu from launching another Thunderbolt, because Pikachu was forced to run away from the Zap Cannons, but it was doing just that, running away from all the Zap Cannons by jumping from light to light to light. And as the Zap Cannons were thrown at the light that Pikachu just jumped off of, Pikachu was able to avoid all of them, obviously making Espeon anxious as fuck, wondering what the fuck was going to happen to it. Espeon was so nervous that it couldn't properly communicate telepathically with Annabelle, so this just made Annabelle battle even worse now, and with Annabelle unable to order Espeon to use an attack silently, Pikachu used another Thunderbolt on Espeon, injuring it. Marin had fiddled with the power and eventually made the lights come back on, but right after this, Pikachu has snuck up on Espeon and used an Iron Tail directly on it. Not giving Espeon a second to fucking recover, Pikachu very quickly used a Volt Tackle. While Pikachu was heading towards Espeon, though, Annabelle started to panic a little bit, and therefore panically told Espeon to counterattack with a Zap Cannon, but Pikachu's Volt Tackle exhibited so much more electricity that the Zap Cannon was rendered useless, and this meant that Espeon wasn't able to protect itself as Pikachu collided into Espeon, still using Volt Tackle, knocking Espeon out. So, Marin officially declared Ash the victor of the battle, saying that Espeon was unable to battle. Scott, Brock, May, and Max cheer extremely loudly, with Max and May holding each other's hands, jumping for joy. Pikachu then jumps into Ash's arms, and the two of them celebrate as Annabelle congratulates her Espeon as it woke up on doing the best that it could. Annabelle then goes up to Ash and Pikachu hugging, admitting that she was right to assume that Ash and Pikachu had a very strong bond, and was more than happy to give Ash the ability Battle Frontier symbol after congratulating him on his win. Leading Ash to do his signature victory pose with Pikachu, very happy that he now only had one last Battle Frontier symbol left. Ash and the gang, and Annabelle and Scott, then left the battle tower, and Scott revealed to Ash that he could now reveal the final Battle Frontier location, since Ash had collected 6 of the 7 symbols. This location was known as the Battle Pyramid. Scott then downloaded the coordinates of the location on Max's Pokénav, and Max observed that the Battle Pyramid appeared to be near Pewter City, Brock's hometown, which Scott confirmed, although he ominously stated that the Battle Pyramid would only be in Pewter City for now. Ash was very determined to win his final Battle Frontier symbol, while Annabelle warned Ash that the final Frontier Rain was extremely powerful, perhaps more powerful than anyone Ash had faced in all these episodes so far, and wished him luck, shaking his hand. With that, Ash and the gang leave, saying goodbye to Annabelle, who stood beside Scott. Unbeknownst to Ash and the gang, Annabelle was blushing, holding on to the hand of hers that Ash had just shaken, wishing that Ash could have recognized her feelings for him. Yeah, that's right, Ash had wooed her, and he didn't even know it. Anyways, Ash and the gang were now on the journey to the Battle Pyramid, the final Battle Frontier facility, walking through the woods to get back to Pewter, or at least close to it.